Hey guys, it's Lavetta.
And it's Miriam.
And this is the Notorious Women Podcast, a comedy podcast about some of history's most notorious women.
Yes.
Yes. And it looks like this is going to be our last episode of 2023.
That's right. Okay.
You excited?
I'm excited. Yeah. I feel like 2019 was yesterday still, like a little.
I know.
But yeah, I'm kind of ready for a new year, you know?
Yeah, I mean, don't say that too quickly.
No, I know, because we kept saying, we were so excited about 2020. I have no opinion about 2024. It is another year, and that's fine. It's fine. Yeah.
I mean, they've been finding aliens. It seems like the world there might be a meteorite.
That's fine.
Headed our way. That's fine.
Whatever.
I mean, aren't we cheerful for the holiday season?
Happy holidays. I saw the best episode of Murdoch about meteorites and aliens. Just total side note. Like,
as you do, as one does.
As one does. It was epic. I loved it. Okay.
Yeah. I haven't started my I love Christmas Carol, all the different iterations of it. Oh my God. And like a lot of people,
every version.
You know. Yeah, like our last week's episode, you know, Dickens. And I usually will watch every episode, you know, like DuckTales version, Patrick Stewart version, George C. Wolfe.
Now, I Set 'Em Up at Christmas Carol was my favorite. And in terms of like family movie night, it is. But the absolute favorite, because I want to be honest with everyone, is a Mickey's Christmas Carol. It is the best. Oh, Tiny Tim, okay? Red little baby Mickey, okay? Oh my God. And in 27 minutes, it's over, right?
Yeah. Same thing with, I mean, by the time this comes out, we will be after Christmas, but in that weird space between Christmas and New Year's where you're like, do I have leftovers? Should we go out to the movies?
Right. The time-space continuum just kind of jumbles. Yeah.
But The Grinch. The Grinch Who Stole Christmas, the old school one, because it's very short.
Listen.
And the song gets you every time. And I know they have new versions, you know, they have the Jim Carrey version and then they have the more animated up, but I still love the old school one from
like that old
Is it from the 50s or the 60s?
Yeah,
probably from the 60s,
like
right?
Listen,
something like that.
Something like that.
But I guess we should get started and just to tell our listeners. So this is going to be our last episode of the year, and then we're going to take a brief break. We haven't decided if it's going to be 1 week or 2 weeks, but it's going to be a break because because we need to recuperate and refresh, and a lot's been going on with us, and I'm sure a lot has been going on with you all. So
I'm sure the sympathy is
in the meantime, you guys can go back and listen to. Old episodes and get caught up because we are in season 4. So if you want to do that, that would be good to go and get caught up and, shoot us an email or DM and let us know some of your favorite past ones and give us a shout out. But let's get started. I believe you are first this week, my dear. So who's your notorious woman this week? All
right, you guys, I have a little Christmas present for everybody. Okay.
You mean post-Christmas present or?
It's like the Christmas week present. So, like Great Aunt Bertha could not get out of her house on Christmas Day because the arthritis acted up. But then, you came to visit her 3 days later and she got you a gift. This is it. Okay. I don't have a Great Aunt Bertha, just to be clear. Okay. Also, I'm Jewish, so I didn't get a lot of Christmas presents growing up.
This is very specific.
There is a woman, I don't know if you've heard of her. Her name is Taylor Allison Swift. Does she?
Taylor Allison Swift, as in Taylor Swift? Is your notorious woman
as in Taylor Swift. Okay, Tay-Tay.
Okay, Tay-Tay. Okay, Tay-Tay. We love Tay-Tay over here.
We do.
Tay-Tay's getting them out to vote.
Uh-huh.
And Tay-Tay is a boss bitch, and Tay-Tay is making it rain, making the money.
Let's
so
talk
I'm a
about.
fan.
Yeah, I love. Like, I'll be totally honest. Like, I'm a fan, but I don't like know her music really well. Kind of fan. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
you probably know it better than you think because she's been around. She's been a boss for so long. That's how famous she is, that it's like, she's like in that arena of Madonna or, Beyonce or Prince. Beyonce is more for contemporary, but Madonna, Prince, like the old school, where there's at least one song of theirs that you've heard. Michael Jackson, of course, and
we
Janet
definitely
Jackson.
We tested it because of the Eras tour, which I will get to, but like literally everybody knows about it, so it's not a surprise. And I did not go pay all the money. I didn't have all the money, couldn't do it. But I did have the $20 it cost to go see her in the movie theater. And so a bunch of my friends were like, it was like the white girl brigade. I will say it. It's true. I represented the diversity of the group, if that tells you anything. And like, I have friends who like practiced, like they rehearsed so that they could sing every word. No, I did not do that because I'm not that level committed, but I was next to them. And so I just kind of sang and screamed my brains out. But like, what words were I saying? Like, probably not the right ones, but I had the best time. So
shake it off. Shake it off. I know it's old school.
Yeah, but but Eras, girl, that happened. It was every era.
Okay. Oh yeah. So I'm excited because I honestly don't know that much about her like personal life. So I'm excited about this. So tell me about Taylor Swift.
I was like, oh, this will be easy. I was like, oh no, I actually have no idea. So she was born on December 13th, 1989.
She just had a birthday.
What's that?
She just had a birthday.
That's right.
Yes. Upon us recording this. Happy belated. Yes.
Her parents are Scott and Andrea Swift. So she was raised in Wyomissing, Pennsylvania. Never heard of it.
Me either.
It's like they couldn't decide between like Mississippi and Wyoming, and they just compromised. Wyomissing. Pennsylvania, on a 15-acre Christmas tree farm. So, like, you guys, Merry Christmas. Okay.
She was raised on a Christmas tree farm?
I know.
Wow.
Isn't that cool?
Wow.
And at a very young age, she showed interest in pursuing music. So when she was 9, she was interested in musical theater, and she performed in 4 Berks Youth Theater Academy productions. So it was like Berks Youth Theater probably puts on shows. I was in one of those things where I grew up too. So Taylor and I have like a lot in common. Okay.
Of course. You're like twins.
Yeah, we're the same person. And she also traveled regularly to New York City for voice and acting lessons. Then she started listening to Shania Twain and was super inspired and started like edging her style more towards country. And so she spent weekends performing at local festivals and events. I don't really know how she went from that to at 11 singing the Star Spangled Banner before a Philadelphia 76ers basketball game.
Oh, wow.
But I do know her parents
at age 11?
At age 11. They were super supportive. And we all know there's a lot of privilege here already, being able to go into the city to take these lessons. And she owns it too. Like, but
the thing is that there's that. But for me, could you have stood in front of a large crowd and sang at 11?
Nope. I could have had all the privilege. I could have all the money. I could have all the
training,
lessons. And you're telling me to look at that crowd and sing in front of them? No, thank you. And I wanted to be an actress very badly at that age. And I would still be like, I just peed myself. I'm going to go. I'm going to go clean up. And then I'm going to cry for a day. Yeah. Right. So she really, like, yes, there's privilege, but she is also remarkable. Like, yeah, she truly is.
You know those kids, you see them, because like you said, not every kid, even if they wanted to be a singer or an actor, could do that at 11.
Yeah. But she had no from what she just loves it and has no issue, like she just wants to do it. So when that same year when she was 11, her mom took her to Nashville to visit record labels. And I got information from HollywoodLife.com and People and Wikipedia and also Entertainment Weekly. She had an interview with them. Quote.
Wait a minute. Back up. Okay.
What?
Now I'm a Southerner. And even though parts of Pennsylvania and upstate New York is very Southern, making your way to Nashville,
yeah,
I would like to have seen some of that home video because I could only imagine the culture shock of because there's some things in the South that we do.
Yeah.
That when I've been away for so long and I come back and I'm like, oh yeah, that is a country ass thing to do. That seems so weird. Just the way we eat food.
Yeah.
The kinds of food we eat. Raccoons are a problem in upstate New York, but in the South, that's good eating.
They're not a problem.
They're not a problem. Just get a family back in the backwoods. You won't have no coon problem much longer. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
No, I hear you. Listen, I remember going home with a friend for Christmas in Georgia, outside of Atlanta, And I remember going to eat. He'd be like, listen, don't get, the tea is too sweet for you. Don't get Diet Coke. Because I was like, oh, I want to. No. Tea? Yeah. He's like, no, you're going to be mad.
That sums up the South perfectly. Yeah. But anyway.
I took a sip of his and I was like, okay, yeah. I'm a Northern girl. I get it now. Okay.
Yeah. That's diabetes in a cup. That's what we do in the South. We do diabetes in a cup like no other area of the United States of America.
It's very effective.
Yes. Anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
So she said, quote, my mom waited in the car with my little brother while I knocked on doors up and down Music Row. She continued. She said, I would say, hi, I'm Taylor. I'm 11. I want a record deal. Call me. So this is where the difference between Taylor and I continues.
On this little girl.
Right? She wasn't aggressive.
Like, little girl, shouldn't you be in school? Right? She's like, no, I'm going to be a star. Okay, motherfuckers.
And she's like, right. She is correct.
Yep.
So she basically figured out that she needed to learn how to play guitar. That was the sense she got. We have a lot of little girls that are good singers. You need to do something to make yourself stand out. So she went home and she learned guitar. And this guy who taught her to her, and she got good, obviously. So when she was 14, her family moved to Hendersonville, Tennessee, when she signed a music publishing deal with Sony/ATV as a songwriter, becoming the youngest person who signed with the company in its history. As a songwriter.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either. Her parents were very, very careful. They moved for this for her, but they also didn't want to put any pressure on her. So I think that's significant. I think that's a significant fact of her life that she was not pushed. She was not shoved. She has a great relationship with her parents to this day. They wanted her to just follow her heart, and they could afford to support this. But they didn't want, and her mom talks about imagine that kind of pressure on a little girl. I'm not doing it, but I will support it. And I'm like, that's how you do it.
Good parents. Yeah.
Right. So she worked with some bigwigs in the industry writing music, including a woman named Liz Rose. So the two of them began meeting for 2-hour writing sessions every Tuesday afternoon after school. And Rose calls the sessions, quote, some of the easiest I've ever done. Basically, I was just her editor. She'd write about what happened in school that day. She had such a clear vision of what she was trying to say. And she'd come in with the most incredible hooks. Damn, that's just talent.
Yeah. And also at that age, you if you are supported properly and encouraged properly, you're unfiltered in your creativity. So you just need somebody to help you edit, basically.
Right.
So.
To guide it, essentially.
Yeah.
But she became concerned that they would shelve her music because they do that a lot. And she felt like, I'm writing right now for me immediately, and this work needs to happen now. And so she left
too.
Sony.
I'm impressed.
Yeah.
I had no idea. But that's why Taylor Swift is a big-ass star, because she was this ambitious at 12.
She left Sony because she was afraid they wouldn't use her stuff. Now, listen, are you leaving Sony when they hire you to write music for them? Never. Never. That'll be my whole life.
I am stalking the executives at Sony, not being like, this is not working for me.
Yeah.
My 12-year-old me.
I really want more. Get it, girl. And she did get it. So there was an industry showcase at Nashville's The Bluebird Cafe in 2005, which makes me feel so old because I was like 47 at 2005. I wasn't, but like
No,
I feel like
not.
I was. I wasn't. I was
You're
110. Getting married though. She's still a child. She caught the attention of Scott Borchetta. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but it sounds right. He was a DreamWorks Records executive who was preparing to form his own independent record label, Big Machine Records. So she was one of his new first signings for the label. Her first single, Tim McGraw, was released in the summer of 2006, and it was an immediate hit.
Wait, her first single was called Tim McGraw?
It was called Tim McGraw. I had to look that up.
Oh, that's smart.
Ways, and she left him. So in order to get the song out there, this is a mama, okay? I would do this for my child. She and her mother helped promote it. They packaged and sent copies of the CD single to country radio stations. What a CD is, kids. So it's this little... Remember it's like a record player. Remember the old school? You've seen them because it's vintage, so it's cool, but that's smaller. Yeah. Children.
Yeah.
Okay. So the label didn't even have furniture yet because it was such a new company, so they sat on the floor for hours packaging and sending. Borchetta said that the record industry his peers did not approve of him signing a 15-year-old singer-songwriter. But he was like, she's 15.
She's 15 now.
Yeah.
So what happened between 12 and 15?
That she
Just
went
life?
home. Yeah, well, it's 12 and 14. She went home. She learned guitar. She honed her skills. And then she was signed at 14. Girl. Yeah.
Okay.
She made her debut at the Grand Ole Opry. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Grand Ole Opry, little theater down south. As a rising country star, September 2006. Her first album, entitled Taylor Swift, was certified platinum in 2007, having sold more than 1 million copies in the U.S. What?
That's crazy. At 15?
Yeah. Well, 16.
Wow. 16.
And then
she getting a little long in the tooth at 16.
I mean, she's getting a little...
What?
Old lady. So in 2008, Fearless was her next album. It was more like pop, but she still had country roots. Killed it. Fearless opened at number 1 on the Billboard 200 chart. This is the album with like You Belong With Me and Love Story. Yeah. And I'm like, how were you 16 when you did that?
But you know what she reminded me of then?
Yeah.
A little known lady from the 80s, I believe, named Debbie Gibson. You remember Debbie Gibson?
I love Debbie Gibson. Oh my God. You're totally right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Taylor Swift, totally. So any Tay-Tay fans out there, look up Debbie Gibson.
You guys, you will not be disappointed.
And the rivalry she had with Tiffany. Which were the iterations of them were Britney and Christina.
Yeah.
But they were sexier. Whereas one thing I've always admired about Taylor Swift and her people and her parents. And I think it goes to that her parents are involved in her life and in the decision around her image, that she came out. She's like, my talent is going to speak for itself. I don't have to be super sexy. I'm not selling that.
Yeah.
And it's the kind of music that you'd want your girls to listen to, just like Debbie Gibson.
I mean,
so,
oh my God, I didn't make that connection till right now. And I'm so excited. Oh, yeah. And I'm going to listen to Debbie Gibson for the rest of the day.
Don't get me singing Debbie Gibson. Only in my dreams, but it really is messy. I don't know if we can afford more than that, but
afford it. It's about dreams. Like, it's so good. And like, but Tiffany was also good. I loved them both. I was like, girl, stop fighting.
It was, it was probably totally manufactured, but like what I loved about it is that they
didn't even run into each other.
Exactly. They were young women writing their own songs.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, right? That's very true. So now I'm jealous of everybody. Cool. So she always had a really okay. If you guys need like a little like catharsis, Taylor's very close with her mom. Her mom helps guide her. Her mom wanted to make sure she had a great childhood, a great life. She wrote a song, The Best Day, dedicated it to her mother. So she recorded it in secret the summer before. And then for Christmas, she created the video. And it's like old home movies of her mom and her when she's like a baby, like as she grows up. And like she also talks about like her dad and her brother. It's like, listen, if you didn't like her before, you're going to love her now.
If you could guarantee that your child would turn out like this, I would sign on to have children. Just saying.
You can't guarantee that, though. No, there's no.
Taylor Swift could convince me to have her relationship with her mother, could convince me to have children. But other than that, I mean, I'd probably have baby Hitler and then have to smother him in his sleep. But,
I just like show these moments to my children and I'm like, right? Isn't that nice? Don't you want to be that child so I can be that mom?
No.
Yeah. That's not how it works, though. No, you're correct. That's not how it works.
Again, I would have Chucky. That would be my son, Chucky. That'd be just my luck. I wouldn't have Taylor Swift as a child. I'd have Chucky. Yeah.
You could tame the Chucky.
Have you seen Chucky?
No, I won't do that.
Chucky
That's
jumps
terrifying.
and also apparently Chucky jumps. Like has recruits, we can turn other dolls to Chuckies. Yeah.
No. Did I mention the amount of baking shows I've watched? It's a lot.
Oh yeah. I know. Okay. That's so sweet. Oh, what a sweet kid.
Yeah, right? So in 2009, she went on her first tour as a headliner, sold out across the USA. And she also that same year dominated the industry award circuit. So Fearless was Album of the Year by the Academy of Country Music in April. And she topped the Best Female Video category for You Belong With Me at the VMAs. Okay, so remember the VMAs in 2009? Do you remember them?
Well, I seem to remember a person who will not be named, who is dead to me forever, interrupting this young woman. And on a drunken rant.
Oh,
he shall not be named.
Shall we not name him?
The brown liquor. The brown liquor and narcissism was responsible for all of that.
Yeah.
But we're all like, what is he doing?
Yeah, that's a solid combo right there.
Brown liquor and narcissism.
Went up to you gotta put that on a t-shirt.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. That's brilliant.
Done.
So during her acceptance speech, y'all, if you weren't there, it's pretty famous. You can probably look it up. She was interrupted. I'll say the name. Should I say the name? It's a Mr. Kanye West.
I won't be saying the name.
No, you don't have to. He was protesting that the award should have gone to Beyonce. What he called, quote, one of the best videos of all time. End quote.
And let's note that even Beyonce is like, what are you doing?
Yeah. If you watch it, like, guys, you could Google this. If you watch it, Beyonce is like, stop it. She won. It's fine.
Sit down. You're embarrassing me.
Like, Beyonce's like, I'm doing just fine. Okay. Over here. This is not, do not. And Taylor also, both women handled it so beautifully. Like,
Yeah.
Okay. So then later, Beyonce was accepting the award for Video of the Year, which is, but I was like, Kanye, sit down. She's about to win a really bigger award. Okay. She invited Taylor to come up and give the speech she wanted to give. Standing ovation, beautiful moment. Love it.
Women supporting women. That's how you do it.
Yes, that's how we do it. Kanye, sit down, dude. Sit down. I mean, allegedly sit down. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm.
No, he just got worse.
I mean, right? We thought that was the worst. Oh, no. No.
Mm-mm.
In 2010, she won a whole bunch of Grammys also. Third album was Speak Now. And then she also starred in the movie Valentine's Day and became a CoverGirl spokeswoman. I did not see Valentine's Day, but I don't really like those movies.
You don't like Valentine's Day, New Year's Day, Christmas Day?
I don't, it's too many chopped up stories. Like, I'm one of the three basic bitches that do not like Love Actually. I'm sorry. I know. You'd think I would love it. The amount of baking shows and shitty Christmas movies I watch is unbelievable. And yet, can't watch Love Actually. Can't connect.
It doesn't hold up. It doesn't hold up. You watch it now, you're like, this is problematic.
You're a stalker.
I'm
you're
a holiday
child.
girl.
Yes.
Watch Last Holiday with Queen Latifah and The Holiday with Cameron Diaz.
Yeah.
Kate Winslet and Jude Law, dreamy Jude Law. I want to do so many dirty things with Jude Law.
Yeah, just like once.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm on
what?
camera.
No, I'm married and very happy about it.
Yes.
I saw Jude Law perform Hamlet with my husband in New York 100 years ago. And he just kind of kept glaring at me like, this is what you like? And I was like, stop looking at me. Stop it. I'm not dead. I'm just married.
Yeah. Exactly.
I don't think he really wants to touch me, Sal. It's fine. We're good.
But if he wanted to.
I mean, it's another conversation for another day,
Yes.
Okay, so then she released Red in 2012. She voiced a character in The Lorax, the movie. It was a cute little movie that I enjoyed. In its first week, it sold 1.2 million copies, which was awesome. This is the song. This is the We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together. It's one of my favorites. I know like 60% of those words right there. Okay.
Yeah.
Most of which is We Are Never Ever Ever Getting Back Together over and over again. And then she released 1989 and 2014. And that was where I had small babies in a 1-bedroom apartment in New York City. So that is the album that I know the best. Because we just listened to music and cried. I'm fine. So then in 2016, Kanye rears himself up again. He released a single called Famous, which included a lyric in which Taylor was referred to as a bitch. And she alleged that was misogynistic. Interesting. Yeah.
Wait. Motherfucker,
Did you not know this?
You interrupted me, but I'm the bitch. Come on.
Yeah.
See, this is why I believe in some violence in some cases. Some people do deserve an open hand slap in the motherfucking mouth. You interrupted me and I'm the bitch.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here.
That's how it works in this fucking world, right? This is why women are angry. Because this is how it's thought of. We are the problem. How?
This is why he will not be named.
Yeah. So then his wife at the time, we know her, released a recording of a phone call in which Taylor had said it was okay. She gave the approval for the line. However, Kanye made no mention of calling her a bitch. She said, yeah, you can say my name. But she didn't say you can call me a bitch.
A bitch?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and also, even if that's true, can you imagine somebody calling you up and being like, hey, I have this song. It's the tricky part about patriarchy. I have this song where I call you a bitch, in reference to, I think, ha ha ha, it's satire. And I mean, she doesn't seem, she's Taylor Swift is much nicer than me because I'd be like, motherfucker, why you calling my phone? Why you on my phone? First off, like,
how'd you get this number?
Like,
and
keep
delete,
my name.
delete.
Yes, she should have. Wouldn't it be funny if Taylor Swift in real life was like, hey, kind of like a pimp, like a pimp daddy kind of attitude, like motherfucker, keep my name out your mouth. And then she'd be like, hello, hi everyone.
Hi. I love my fans.
This motherfucker, I'ma stab him.
Oh my God. Could I love her more? I don't even know.
I mean, listen, I'd have to work with her one day because that would be. But you know what? She stays in this business long enough, she'll turn into that because these motherfuckers will stay playing in women's faces.
Yeah. And
he interrupted her and calls her a bitch.
Yeah.
No.
And she does not take it. She also took part in a widely publicized civil trial in August 2017 after former radio host, I just don't want to get in trouble, so I'm not going to say his name, sued her mother, and a promoter, claiming that she had falsely accused him of sexually groping her in 2013 during the taking of a photograph and thus destroyed his career. She countersued, maintaining that the assault had taken place. At the trial, she was removed from his suit, and the other two defendants were found not liable, as the jury found in favor of Taylor's countersuit. So she won. Soon after...
So he fucked around and found out.
Yeah, and then got into a song, because you know that happens. She does it. She will write you into a song. The song is called...
First of all, you don't fuck with Tay-Tay and her people, her attorneys.
No.
Right? Because they're coming for all your things. And then she's going to add insult to injury by putting it in a song. Listen, don't do it. Don't do it.
So next time you listen to Look What You Made Me Do, like, you can enjoy it like a little bit extra. A little bit extra.
That is so gangster. Look what you made me do. You made me do this to you.
Yeah. Stop hitting your face. Stop hitting your face. You know.
Oh my God. Okay, so Tay-Tay is not only like a phenomenal and megastar, but she's also like she's doing boss moves and it's not even a bully because it's like, look what you made me do. You did this to yourself.
Yeah, she is changing the narrative.
Goals.
Okay,
so to be a woman and be able to do that.
Oh,
goals.
Girl, that's like our goals. She's my hero.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, so in 2018, she left Big Machine. She signed with Republic Records and Universal Music Group. The following year, her former label, which owned the master recordings of her 6 albums, was sold to Scooter Braun, a talent manager who also has Kanye as his client. So she publicly spoke out against the deal, claiming that Porchetta had rejected her attempts to acquire the master tapes. And that Scooter had not been kind to her. So then she tried to negotiate a deal, but he sold her back catalog to a private investment firm in 2020. So what did she do? And this explains something that I could not figure out. She began re-recording her early material in an effort to gain control of it. So when you go to like Apple or whatever to like listen to your music, Spotify, every song she's ever written has Taylor's version next to it. Now, I was confused because I was like, aren't they all Taylor's version? No, she re-recorded, so she took back control of all of her music. Okay. Yes. So I think that kind everything. Of power. Yeah.
I think I just got a lady boner. Is that?
Yeah. That's real. Is that, that's happening.
That's okay.
Yeah. It's happening to everyone right now as they're listening to us. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. The power in that is intoxicating. Right?
I mean, right? So 2019, she released the album Lover. 2020, she released Folklore with a sister record, Evermore, later that year. In 2022, she released Midnights. Like all while she's re-recording. They're all different energy. She's so brilliant. Also, before we go, let's talk about how she is openly and actively pro-choice, a feminist. She was a founding member of the Time's Up movement. She advocates for LGBTQ plus AI plus, I don't want to miss them, all the pluses, rights. She called for the passing of the Equality Act. She performed during World Pride New York City in 2019 at Stonewall. She supports the March for Our Lives movement, and gun control reform. She's a vocal critic of white supremacy, donated around the time of the George Floyd protests to the NAACP Legal Defense and Educational Fund and the Black Lives Matter movement. She has called for the removal of Confederate monuments in Tennessee. She has advocated for Juneteenth to become a national holiday. Well done. We can thank Taylor for that, which is awkward, I know. In 2020, she urged her fans to check their voter registration ahead of elections, which resulted in 65,000 people registering to vote within one day of her post. She endorsed Joe and Kamala, and she criticized openly that orange guy that was pretending to run the country for 4 years. I don't remember his name.
I feel like Taylor Swift is trying to make up for white ladies. I think she's trying to represent her peeps and your peeps. I think that she looked at those election results of 2016 and she's like, get the fuck out of here. We can do better, white ladies. So let's put our privilege to good use.
Yes.
And get these fuckers out of here.
I mean,
right? Because before I feel like she was a little bit more, doing her things behind the scenes. It's tricky to get political, but she looked around 2016. She was like, get the fuck out of here. No.
Yeah.
Again, I think Taylor Swift is low key. Use the pimp voice at home. Get the fuck out of here.
Well, there's a documentary of her life. I think it's called Americana. Which I can't say everything about her. Like, I know we're going to end this podcast. Right. If you're a super Swiftie, you're going to be like, you forgot this whole thing. I'm so sorry. There's only so much time in a day. But there is a moment where her father wants her to stay just neutral. And she makes a choice. She makes an active choice. It's not, and her father's protecting her. Like, of
course. Yeah. It's out of concern. Yeah.
But she's just like, no, I can't be this big and not do something about it, which is badass.
Yes.
So
we like Tay-Tay.
We like her a lot. I mean, we might be Swifties at this point by the time we're done. I don't think we know enough words to the songs. That's the problem.
Or so that's not really in our age group.
Because we're like a little old, maybe. Like, it's true. Yeah. Okay, it's fine. Getting back together. So March 2023 was the start of her first concert tour since 2018, the Eras Tour. You guys know this. Her sixth tour overall. Chaos at Ticketmaster. She was pissed. They worked it out. Kind of. Ticketmaster still sucks. Allegedly. Alleged. She did not.
Didn't she? I'm sorry to interrupt you. Didn't that whole fiasco is the reason that it triggered like a congressional hearing?
Yes, it did.
About like ticket scalping?
Yes. It could be. And the way that they run it, is not great. So she didn't directly say anything bad about Ticketmaster, but she just said this is not good. And I think
her fans are like, fuck this.
Yeah, I think that opened up more because I really only know this because I have friends who were like on a computer for 4 days and still not getting through, and then gave up because you have to sleep sometime. And then suddenly we're able to get tickets because they did fix some things.
Yeah.
She was named Time Person of the Year in 2023, which made her the first woman to appear twice as a Person of the Year because in 2017 she was recognized as one of the silence breakers who inspired women to speak, the Time's Up movement, or the Me Too. My bad. No, Time's Up. Mm-hmm. They're connected. And that's Taylor Swift. She's still going. She's had a birthday. Who knows?
What a wonderful subject to end the 2023 year with.
I thought so.
The Time Person of the Year.
Right?
Thank you so much. A lot of that, some of that I knew, but a lot of it I didn't know. So, especially about the early stuff. Like I didn't know.
Yeah.
I just love it when a young girl can have such ambition and be encouraged and not like be deterred from it by like, that's not ladylike. That's not what little girls are supposed to do.
Right.
Little girls aren't supposed to have ambition, you know,
Right.
but encouraged to do that.
Because
So
it's not just being a singer. It's going out there. It's
yeah,
knocking on
No.
doors. Like that is something that's not necessarily encouraged for young women to be aggressive in their wants, not in a bad
ambitious.
way. Ambitious.
Openly ambitious. Like yeah. So I love that. Thank you so much, Taylor
You're welcome.
Swift. Yes,
all right,
baby. So my Notorious woman. Now, for those of you who may not know, I've been in Florida several months, looking after my grandparents. And unfortunately, my grandmother. I'm not gonna cry. She passed recently. I adored her. We were very close, and so it's been really hard. Still very fresh, but I was like, we got to go out with a bang.
Listen,
and actually
Lavetta,
concentrating on the podcast.
I just want to say, I'm going to take a moment and say it. It's too late because we record. We don't edit. So there's nothing you can do to stop me. Lavetta deserves like her own Notorious Woman moment for what she has done for her grandparents. Okay, I'm going to say it and I'm going to put it on the podcast. So it lives forever. Okay, that's all I have to say. She's a hero. She's my hero. Okay,
stop trying to make me cry. Stop.
I can't help it.
Make me cry.
I get that a lot. But anyway,
I wanted to honor her in a way, and because my grandmother's a badass, she was like my role model in a lot of ways for like my outlook on life, how I treat people. She was incredibly kind, but also very what they would say a sapphire, sassy Black woman. But she was very loving and kind. She was also built like a brick house. My grandmother was bad. She was a baddie. I'm just saying. And so I thought, how can I honor her with my choice of my Notorious Woman that will take us out of this month, this year, 2023. And I settled on someone that when my grandmother was younger, a lot of people say that she looked like. Actually, and someone I admire, and I was going to get to this person sooner or later, but I think that this is very fitting, and this is for you, Grandma Eva May. My Notorious Woman this week is Pam Grier.
Oh my God! Yes. Oh my God! Yes. You're descendant
my grandpa
from Pam
said to
Grier,
me,
essentially.
I know. He said the other day, he was like, because we've been looking through pictures and stuff, and he's like, oh yeah, that's when she was looking like Pam Grier, and I was like, oh my God, I got to do this Pam Grier. Also, this Pam Grier is awesome. So,
oh my God, I'm so excited.
So let's get to it. Thanks. So Pam Grier was born, and of course, just like Taylor Swift, she has a long career. So I'm not going to go over everything. I'm going to skip over a lot of stuff, but this will give you guys some insight. Hashtag not historians, but this will whet your appetites. So Pam Grier was born on May 26, 1949 in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, to Gwendolyn Davis, a homemaker and a nurse, and Clarence Ransom Grier Jr., who was a mechanic and a technical sergeant in the Air Force. Okay. She has one brother and one sister. Now, originally, her parents were already living in Denver, Colorado, but while her mother was pregnant, for some reason, they decided to go and visit her father's family in North Carolina. Okay. And they even used the Green Book to navigate their journey down south. Yeah. Because again, it's 1949. Course. Yeah. And that's why she was born in North Carolina. So, okay. Also because of her father, he was in the military. So like a lot of military families, they moved frequently in the earlier part of her childhood. Yeah. And in 1956, so she was 1, they actually moved to Swindon in southwest England in the UK. Oh, okay. And they were there for a couple years. And by her own account, she remembers that they were the only Black family in town. But she didn't experience any racism she doesn't remember any segregation compared to that of the United States. And at that time, she is quoted as saying, quote, "They didn't care that I was Black since they hadn't raised to hate blacks. Instead, they've been raised to hate Germans, end quote.
Yeah.
So, yeah, another reminder that prejudice is taught.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Prejudice is taught. So
it's got to be on a list, and it's got to be, I mean, you've got to be taught. It's in South Pacific. I was pretty sure that musical solved racism, and I'm really disappointed that it didn't.
Yeah, that's what it did. South Pacific solved racism.
I saw a temple version of it when I was like 8, and I was like, that's right. Enough said, Okay.
Now, shortly after that, her father was transferred to California's Travis Air Force Base, but eventually they ended back in Denver, Colorado, near Lowry Air Force Base. Now, she spent a lot of her time with, her extended family and also with her grandparents, her grandmother, they called her Marky, and Daddy Ray, her maternal grandparents. They had a farm in Wyoming, a sugar beet farm. Ooh. And it was like a 200-acre farm. And it basically was where her ancestors had fled. They were homesteaders via the Underground Railroad to escape slavery. So the Midwest has like actually a much larger Black population. Like when I found that, I was like, oh my God, I must meet these Black people, who many of them have been out there since the end of the war, the Civil War, even before. And then, of course, the homestead migration. A lot of Black people did that as well, but her people are like Midwesterners, like with farm and like these are country folk. This is what we say.
Yeah.
Now, some of her fondest memories were actually hanging out on this farm in Wyoming, and especially with Daddy Ray in his garden. Yeah. And he would take her hunting and fishing. Can you imagine this cute little girl hanging out with her grandpa?
Totally.
And she spoke fondly about him because he always he believed in teaching the girls to be self-sufficient.
Yes,
and to be prepared for life. So he taught them how to, hunt and fish, but also how to change a tire and other life skills that she would need as an adult. And then, in between being at the farm in Wyoming, she also lived in a close-knit Black community in Denver. Now, a lot of times back then, segregation in a lot of ways we know it's because they said separate but equal, but it wasn't equal. If it had been equal, it actually probably would have been a utopia for Black people, because who wants to risk being ridiculed and harassed? And so a lot of Black people of her generation and even before remember fondly being in these all Black communities, feeling safe and secure and being encouraged. So she remembers, she attended East High School in Denver, and she appeared in a number of stage productions, but she was very athletic. She was into sports. Yeah. And as she grew up, she was she entered a couple of beauty contests, but for the most part, she was a tomboy.
Yeah.
And now before I get to that, so she ended up graduating from high school, and then she was in a beauty contest, and one of her aunts was like, I think you should, from one of the beauty contests, she met an agent in LA, and he was like, if you ever come out to LA, I have a job for you at least, but I also send you out to auditions and things like that. So her aunt was like, that's a great opportunity for you to get the hell out of Podunk, if you want to go somewhere. But she's like, she's a homebody. But before that, when she was about age 6 in 1955.
Okay.
In Denver, she and her mom, so her father worked a lot on the Air Force Base. And then, of course, her mother worked because these are working class people.
Right.
She would often visit her aunt's house, because everybody stayed at everybody's house. So when she was 6 in the summer of 1955, she was visiting her aunt's place in the projects.
Okay. And
her mother was out working, her aunt was out working. And basically, it's one of those situations where it probably still goes on today, where the slightly older kids look after the younger kids.
Yeah.
So basically, the older kids were supposed to be looking out for the younger kids. And she said she remembers she was downstairs in her aunt's house just playing like puzzles or coloring or something, because she's 6. Like literally 6 years old.
Yeah.
And there were some older boys in the house who were about between the ages of 10 and 12, and they were upstairs playing. So she remembers they called down to her and told her to come up, that they wanted to show her something. So, she's 6 years old. So she goes up, and I'm not going to go into details because it's very traumatic and triggering for some people. So trigger warning for sexual assault. But they assaulted her. And she was 6. So she didn't know what was happening. And the horrible thing about it is that she remembers that this was happening. She kind of knew what was happening, but then her aunt had forgotten to tell the telephone repairman not to come that day. So he came, and he came in the house because, it was back in the 50s.
Right.
And he caught the boys assaulting her. And he was like, what are you kids doing here? And he was enraged, of course, to see what they were doing to her. So he told her to go into the bathroom, and then she heard him through the door yelling at the guys and, the boys and scattering them around. And then he left. But what she you don't that's
leave.
A horrible situation. What happened was, because again, this is 1955. She was so young and such a sweet, innocent child that she misunderstood. She thought she had done something wrong and that the man was angry at her. So she thought it was somehow her fault and that she had caused this terrible thing that had just happened to her. She never told her parents. And then later when the boys actually saw her outside, they threatened her that if she told anyone, they'd beat her up. And so this 6-year-old baby, had this terrible thing. And then because it's old school, and also this guy's a stranger. So, he probably thought, well, I've done my thing. I ran these terrible, nasty boys off and told her to go in the bathroom to protect herself. But in her mind, she's like, oh, I did something wrong.
I mean, I'm glad he stopped them, but you're not done. You're just not done.
Yeah, I mean, this is like a generational thing. It's also because she was so traumatized, and at 6, you don't even have the words. So she never told her family what happened. She never told her family, but she changed. She became withdrawn. Again, she's hanging out with Daddy Ray on the farm, and she's a little tomboy and she's funky and, but after this happened, she became just so different. And she even developed a stutter.
Oh,
so she basically withdrew from everyone.
Common, yeah.
Yeah. So they were just concerned because this lively young little girl is like withdrawn and now she's stuttering. I bet they were so confused. They didn't have any kind of like reference for this, and and because of this, now before I go on, so unfortunately, she would suffer a sexual assault 2 more times in her life, once at 18 and another time in her 20s. That many young women can attest to.
There's so many penises that I need to chop off, personally. It's
and again,
lot.
she was 6 years old. 6. And
I'm sorry, I would send those boys to jail. I don't give a shit. Like, I know their children too. Fuck them.
It's so interesting because I wonder what would have happened if she was. But then, how do you even tell an adult what happened? It would be up to the man
she doesn't
to
even know
say.
what any of this is.
Yeah, she didn't know what happened.
That's why that man needed to stick around and say this poor child suffered.
He's a
these children.
He's a 1955 middle-aged man.
I know. And in his head,
a stranger
he's
at that, like.
It. I know.
Yeah. He, so now because again she's withdrawn, she's 6. Her family's just very concerned with her, and especially her grandparents. So Daddy Ray started to bring her back to the farm in Wyoming a lot more often because she seemed really, really happy and free there. She eventually, because she was there a lot more often, she till this day she loves horses. And they introduced her to one of the horses that she called Big Horse because she's 6. Big Horse. And she tells this beautiful story. So my main sources today are TMC's. There's a great podcast series on her called The Plot Thickens. an
Okay.
EW article from Maureen Lee Lenker and a New York Times article from David Marchese. And in the TMZ, the Plot Thickens podcast, she tells this great story of like how all of that happened. And then one day she went with her grandpa and his friend, and they were in the car and they went to a juke joint, and they were like,
Nice.
you stay in the car, because that's what they did back then. And she started to get worried, and after a while, because she said it was like hours, but knowing a kid is probably like 45 minutes, who knows?
Yeah.
But Big Horse appeared all of a sudden.
Okay.
And she approached him, and then she got on his back, and he was so gentle, and he was just leading her around, and like she kind of got lost. So then when her Daddy Ray came out with his friend, they were like, where? They were frantic, obviously.
Yeah.
And they found her just off with Big Horse. And I think the animals are so beautiful. Big Horse she needed that. And that'll make me cry too. So she started to come out of her shell a little bit more after, finding her connection with nature and with animals. So that's how she was able to get through high school and, somewhat recover. Now, like I said, as she was growing up, going through high school, she was very athletic. So, and she turned into a beautiful young woman, as we all know. But she was still very like kind of country and like she was really a dork, really. Like she's really totally like a dork. And she started going into beauty contests just to raise money for college. So, because she wanted to go to the local college. And after, like I said previously, winning one, an agent from APA agency told her if she ever came to Los Angeles, he'd have a job for her. So, if she ever made her way out there, she'd at least have a job, which she did make her way out in 1968 with the encouragement of an aunt who said, I'll drive you out there and I'll pay for it, So
nice.
This is how you encourage young people.
Yeah.
Now, as we both know, LA is very expensive, and it wasn't any different in 1968.
Yeah.
So she arrived in LA and she began working, just trying to save money because she eventually wanted to enroll in UCLA. So she started working several jobs, including as a receptionist at APA, at the switchboard at the American International Pictures.
I love a
company.
Switchboard story. Okay.
Yeah. She also was a DJ, which she said that was her favorite job. And then after a year, she fell into singing backup for different R&B singers, including Bobby Womack and Sly Sylvester Stone. Sly and the Family Stone. Like that Sly Stone.
What?
Yes.
I don't understand.
LA is crazy.
LA is so crazy. Okay.
LA is so crazy.
Here we are. Okay.
And she was trying to save money, but it's one of those things where you're trying to save money and you're trying to enroll in school, but you're working 5 jobs. So like, do you have the energy even at like 19 or 20? So she fell into with some film students at UCLA who were, they were in the middle of basically shooting their student films.
Okay.
And she fell into them basically in the crew. And she was like, oh my God, this is so exciting. And so she thought initially that she wanted to learn how to do filmmaking behind the scenes.
Oh,
so she crewed on a bunch of these student films for a while. And she just had so much fun, while working in her multiple jobs. And she was making her way, because she said when she first started working at the agency, she was so country bumpkin that the other ladies were so sweet. They were like, oh no, we're going to take you and change your style. She's like, but I don't have a lot of money. They were like, don't worry, but you got to change your style, girl, if you're going to be here in LA. Like you got to.
I mean.
So yeah, she's basically is living the starving student, trying to make her way, late teens, early 20s life that a lot of people can relate to. So she had been here like a couple years. She had been in LA a couple years. And then one night she went to a club. And again, she was so dorky. She's just, but she's just it's so interesting because her persona is so different, I think, than the actual Pam Grier, who's like very sweet and cerebral and kind of nerdy.
This is
but she ran into a young, basketball star by the name of Luau Sender Jr., who would later become known as Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Oh, yes. Him I know.
she said that.
Yes.
Yeah. She said she saw him she was at a club one night and she saw this really tall, lanky guy dancing. And she was so surprised because he's actually dancing really well, even though he's like 7 feet tall. Like, so they just started talking one day. Basically, both of them are a bunch of nerds. Both of them are like, we would call them nerds back then, but you know. But he was a young college basketball star who was most certainly about to be recruited and be the number 1 draft pick, basically.
I was going to say about to be Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. That's all.
Yeah, she didn't know that at the time, so they kind of hit it off, and so basically their relationship kind of started around that time. You know, where he was still a star, but you know he is down to earth, and you know, and then he started playing professionally. So eventually they moved in together, but you know they're very young.
Yes.
Now after being drafted and being in the league for a little bit, Kareem Luau Sender was very much affected by the assassination of Martin Luther King, as many Black people were. Yeah. So after that, he actually began studying Islam. Right. And he got really into it and he changed his name. And she said it was really hard because she knew him as Luau, and then to be calling him Kareem. So it was just an adjustment, but she was a very supportive partner. Okay. But it became very clear that he converted to Islam and he wanted his partner, soon to be fiance, wife, to also convert. Yeah. So he wanted her to become a good Muslim wife. And she did not, she kind of said she was just trying to figure it out at first. And then eventually he gave her an ultimatum and it basically ended their relationship. Yeah. Okay.
You can't change. I'm a big believer in that. Like you can't change someone's heart. You can't force someone to have a favorite color. You certainly can't force someone to believe in a God you don't. You know what I'm saying?
Well, especially when that person's 19, 20. So that's that's a lot to ask because you're like, what if I change my mind? Like, right? I'm not really sure. But one thing about journey, one thing about Miss Pam Grier, which again, she reminds me of my grandmother, is that I love her because she's always had her own mind. She's always been like, if I don't want to do it, I'm not going to do it. You know, so that's something that shows up throughout her life. Now, by 1970, at age 21, she was still, you know, working those jobs, obviously having a boyfriend live in. But then once that ended, you know, but she always was looking the thing that she could do and not rest on being somebody's wife because she could have easily just become his wife. An agent, so she was still working at APA and AIP, and an agent asked her, one day she was working there, and an agent asked her if she ever considered acting because the legendary indie producer, Roger Corman, was casting a new movie about women in prison. Okay. Now, for those of our listeners who don't know, Roger Corman is a legendary indie producer. Like, he is known mainly for like low budget horror genre kind of stuff from the like 70s and 80s or 60s, 70s and 80s. But he also directly helped and showed some of your faves and some legendary directors of their own how to become a good director. He basically was like the Jason Blumhouse before Jason Blumhouse. Like, he is legendary. And so he would create different genres of films. And so he was looking to start a new genre called women in prison films. So when the agent asked her, again, she's 21. And again, she has no idea. She knows she's probably cute, but she has no idea how beautiful she is probably and how she's coming off to people. So she was sort of hesitant at the time. But he was like, no, actually they're having the casting. They were having a cattle call basically down the street. Yeah. And the agent's like, let's walk over there. Let's just see. And they literally just walked down the block. Like, that's how close they were. Okay. And so she went in and they asked her if she knew how to read. She's like, of course I know how to read. What? She thought it was like a racial thing. They're like, no, read a script. And she's like, oh, okay. And they were interested in her because the director wanted a Black woman in one of these films because it's supposed to be these women getting together in prison and fighting back. And they specifically wanted a Black woman, but they also wanted actors who were raw, who weren't too polished. So she was a newbie. So
yeah.
Yep. So she read and they just loved, they said they just loved her. It was a terrible read, but they just loved her energy and and her look and everything.
I was going to say, you don't learn how to cold read for a casting director in 4 seconds. That doesn't happen. I don't care how talented you are. That's a specific skill.
It was a terrible read, but they loved her. They loved her look, and they liked that she didn't even know, that was part of the appeal.
Right.
So they offered her the role, but again, she was still kind of like, I don't know about this. But then when she found out that what she was going to be paid in a week was way more money than she would be paid being a receptionist,
I'm like,
a
how
DJ,
are you reticent?
A switchboard.
Yeah. Take the job and the money.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So once she did that, she was like, okay, well, because again, she's a big old nerd. She's like, I gotta read. So she started reading all these books and Actor Prepared, all this other stuff.
Yeah,
and really she wanted to give it backstory. So she wanted to show it prepared.
Yeah.
And that movie it turned into The Big Dollhouse, which was her feature film debut in 1971.
Okay.
And she would go on to star in the follow-up, Women in Cages from 1971 and The Big Bird Cage in 1972.
Oh, okay. A trio.
And these, again, the thing about these films is that they were really dirt cheap to make. Yeah. And so they always turned a big profit. And it's Roger Corman, again, he was a big mentor for a lot of up and coming directors and filmmakers and people who wanted to learn how to make films. So a lot of people cut their teeth on these films. So some of them are you're like, oh, this is very low budget. It's basically a white exploitation films. Yeah. But it got her. She immediately, because she pops off of the screen when you see her, and these films were so successful that the place she was working for, AIP, actually offered her a contract as an actor. Excellent.
That's the dream. That is the dream.
That's the dream. Yep. So once the films began to be released, her star just catapulted. Her star power was undeniable.
Yes.
And it would begin what we would call her run as the queen, and actually as the first female action star. I think she kind of shares that with Tamara Dobson, who did Cleopatra Jones. Because technically, Cleopatra Jones comes out before Coffee and Foxy Brown, which is Pam Grier's 2 major films. But if you've ever want to see, Cleopatra Jones is so good. She basically is like James Bond, but a 6-foot-tall Black woman.
Yes.
That's what Cleopatra Jones is, basically. But these are the first female action stars in film. 2 Black women, basically.
That's incredible. We should talk about that more.
Yeah. Tarantino says it's Pam Grier, but technically, like I said, Cleopatra Jones comes out in 1973. Before Pam's first sort of foray into blaxploitation film. So after those first 3, and they were a big hit, she shows up in a movie called Coffee, which was also done by Jack Hill, the guy who first cast her. And in this film, she plays a nurse who seeks revenge on drug dealers. Now, her character is advertised in the trailer as the baddest one-chick hit squad that ever hit town.
Yes.
Because that's how those things worked.
Yes.
She was basically considered the first African-American woman to headline an action film. And as the protagonists of previous blaxploitation films were men like Shaft, Dolomite. Mm-hmm. Well, Dolomite is more of a comedy kind of thing, but Superfly, all of those of that ilk. But she was like a woman coming in doing this, and she always carried a big ass gun. Okay.
Yes.
So Coffee came out, and that's spelled with a C, Coffy. It came out in 1973. Roger Ebert praised Coffee. And he praised the film for its believable female lead. He noted that Pam Grier was an actress of, quote, beautiful face and astonishing form, and that she possessed a kind of physical life missing from many other attractive actresses. Yeah.
Yes. She's a natural.
After just I know. So just after 3 years with her first film and at age 24, she became a bona fide superstar.
Excellent.
She became so famous and she was everywhere. Because remember, this is a time where you would go to the film and watch the film over and over and over and over and over again also. At the height of her popularity, she said she couldn't even walk down the street in LA. She'd be bombarded with like 5,000 people would be following her.
Wow.
Now, I want to get to Foxy Brown, which was also released by AIP, which came out in 1974. Okay. Now, in Foxy Brown, if you've never seen this, in Foxy Brown, that's Foxy Brown, is one of the most famous scenes in where she goes to this woman called Ms. Pimp or Mrs. Pimp's crib. You watch the scene, she literally, is definitely some sexual harassment going on this set. This guy literally grabs her by the pussy. Like, I kid you not. So Mrs. Pimp's goons are patting her down.
Oh my God.
And he literally grabs her by the pussy and squeezes her breasts.
Oh no.
Before she calls him a gay slur. Yeah, because it's a blaxploitation film from 1974. And this happened on camera. And I'm thinking, how many times do they have to shoot this? I mean, they may have only shot it once because it's a blaxploitation film from the 70s. But I was just like, he literally, his hand is all up. Anyway, it's very disturbing. But that is part of this kind of genre of film. Now, she comes in, they pat her down, and he threatens to hit her. But Mrs. Pimp is like, no. Because she's like, I brought you something. And it's like a bag. And Mr. Pimp's like, bring it here. After they pat her down, or assault her, basically.
Yeah, after they assault her.
They open the bag. And they're like, it looks like some sort of pickle jar in here. So they take out the pickle jar. And she opens and she's looking. He was like, maybe we should do something else. So they're looking at the pickle jar. And as they're looking at the pickle jar, she goes she's holding up her hands, right? And she goes in the back of her afro and she pulls out a gun. Out the back of her afro. Okay.
Listen, that's very satisfying.
And when Mrs. Pimp or Ms. Pimp looks at the pickle jar closely, she realizes that it's
right?
It's Mr. Pimp's penis.
Oh God.
And she goes, ah! And she screams like, ah! By that time, Foxy Brown's taking out her gun and she just shot one man, the one man that groped her, and shot the other one dead in the head. Right? Because I have to do it in the 1970s jive accent. And the lady's like, no, Mrs. Pimp's like, what am I going to do? You might as well kill me. And she looks at it, she's like, nah, death is too easy for you, bitch. I want you to suffer. And this is...
Oh my God.
If you've never seen these movies, first of all, Pam Grier has a body to die for. Her breasts are amazing. And these women in this movie, but even those that are not Pam Grier, never seem to have on bras. And their clothes come off very easily.
Yeah, women's clothes just could not stay on in the 70s. I don't know what happened. Could not stay on. Weird. Yeah.
But she's so badass and she's so like moral. She's usually like getting revenge and like, but she's so gorgeous and like, it's very, I love the 70s because I love you jive turkey. I love those. I love all of that. It's just so great.
It's very satisfying to watch because it's a woman telling off these men, taking the power. So satisfying.
And it's a Black woman. And when I first started going down that blaxploitation rabbit hole, trust me, the quality of the films are not that great. But
I mean,
people forget that blaxploitation films saved a lot of the Hollywood studios, like literally saved them from bankruptcy. Yeah. B, Black audiences didn't consider them exploitative. They loved them because it's the first time that they saw Black leads not be like, sort of docile and like, but like sticking it to the man and being like, so they love this. And it is a fun ride. You have to let go of your modern sensibilities a lot of times when you're watching these films. Because there's some problematic things in it, but they're so much fun and the audiences were having a blast. So, because I mean, can you imagine? Death is too easy for you, bitch.
Yes.
Anyway. But after this, so that's like the height of her powers. And then there's a lot more films that follow. Sheba Baby follows and Friday Foster. And in all of these, she's always like the protector of somebody who's vulnerable, whether it's her sister or her brother. She's fighting against the drug dealers or crooked cops or crooked politicians. again, she's a bona fide action star, and she was very, very sexy. Yeah. So, and she was just so cool. Like her outfit, she had this cool afro and then like leather stuff. She just looked so cool. Yeah. Now, eventually, blaxploitation would end. So by the late 70s, the trend was starting to wane a little bit. And so her movie credits became smaller. So she switched gears. Like if she's smart, you switch gears. Right. Her love life also switched up. Okay. And like I said, she's a very kind, a very sweet woman. Like she is a catch for any smart man because she's not only incredibly beautiful, but she's also very intelligent. She's interested in reading but she's also a very kind woman. Obviously, she didn't have any shortage of suitors, especially because the way she looked and who she was. Yeah. Some of which included Freddie Prinze. That's Freddie Prinze Jr.'s father. Oh. Who was a rising, stand-up comedian. He was Puerto Rican, and he was like the first like modern Puerto Rican, and maybe not even modern, but like modern like Puerto Rican like superstar, like in comedy, and like just he was very handsome young guy. He battled addiction to drugs, and he had some other issues, and eventually he actually committed suicide tragically. And she said he called her before that. Oof. They had had a bit of a relationship, but she actually just felt protective of him, like. Yeah. And he knew he messed it up because, addicts going to mess it up. Yeah. Another addict that she was involved with was Richard Pryor, the GOAT for stand-up comedy. Richard and Freddie knew each other. But after Freddie's death, a lot of his friends bonded and she and Richard made their way to each other. And she actually got Richard clean because Richard had always battled drugs. And she said she bought him a bike. Her favorite thing was to see him riding on the bike. Uh-huh. She got him into exercise because she was always into like fitness and clean living. And, she was not into drugs and she barely drank, if at all. And so he did really, really well for a while. But of course, he fucked it up. So, yep. And once he realized she was not going to put up with that bullshit, he eventually ghosted her. Can you believe it? He ghosted her.
You can't ghost Pam Grier. What are you
He
crazy?
Ghosted Pam Grier and then showed up a few months later, married to someone else in 1977.
You know what, Richard? Do you? Can't. Yeah. She tried.
And they were together for a while. And everyone said when they were around that time, like Richard looked good. He was doing good. And like, so the love of a good woman cannot save you if you don't want to be saved.
Yeah, if you don't want to be saved, exactly.
Like he ghosted her and married someone else, but she said that she knew it wasn't meant to be because while they were together, she had a cancer scare. Oh. And instead of him being like supportive and going, he just kind of freaked out, and she knew that he would not be able to show up in the way for her that she needed him to. Yep. But he shouldn't have treated her like that. But I mean, a lot of women have that story when you're dealing with straight cis men. Like it's a very common story, unfortunately.
Yeah, but like let's change that narrative. That's like not. I like how she was like, no, I wouldn't accept that in a partner. Good job. Yeah, you're right.
And this is what I love about her. Like she's always choosing herself, which I really, really admire about her. Now, on the career end, like I said, in the 70s, she pivoted. I mean, in the 1980s, she started to pivot. In 1985, she made her theatrical debut in the theater with Sam Shepard's Fool for Love at the Los Angeles Theater Center. Yes. And she began mainly working in television in long-term recurring roles, sometimes series regular roles, but including Miami Vice. She had an ongoing role in Miami Vice, which people don't know, that was a huge show. That was like the Scandal in Grey's Anatomy of its time. It was huge. Yeah.
I mean, I think I inappropriately watched it as a small child.
Yeah, it was a lot of guns, incredibly violent, but
a lot of drugs.
Yeah, it was a lot of drugs. It's a big show though, and she also including The Fresh Prince, Bel-Air, Night Court, and The Cosby Show, just to name a few. Now, in 1988, she was diagnosed with stage 4 cervical cancer. Oof. And was told that she had 18 months to live. Yeah. Through vigorous treatment, she recovered and has since been in remission. But she kept working. In the 1990s, she had a series regular on the Showtime series, The L Word.
Oh, yeah.
But she felt like her career had basically stalled, and also because she came out like gangbusters, out like after 3 films, she was like a bona fide movie star.
Yeah.
But in 1996, director Quentin Tarantino, who had grown up during her rise as a young actress in blaxploitation films, he called her and said he had a project for her that he specifically wrote for her. And she was like, yeah, another white boy calling me, talking about he got something for me. Okay, we'll see. But no, he was, because around that time, Quentin Tarantino was hot shit. And he made good on his promise. It was actually written exactly for her, and it was called Jackie Brown.
Yep.
That is a fantastic movie starring Miss Pam Grier, but also Samuel Jackson gives a wonderful performance in that. It's so well done because it's a nod to blaxploitation films, but it's its own thing.
Yeah.
So I highly recommend you guys watch it. It's a really, really good film. It's very violent because it's Tarantino. But that reinvigorated her career in 1996. Basically, Hollywood was like, oh, yeah, we love her. So
I love that like 8 years prior, she was told she has 18 months to live. And now her career is invigorated and she's okay. Like, yeah, she told that bitch cancer where to suck it, Pam Grier.
And then, so she, she started working more regularly.
That's why women's health needs improvement. I'm on a PSA that.
Exactly.
Okay. We need to know more.
That's right.
We need to study more. Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
And good night. Okay.
She went on to do the reboot of The L Word as well, and Law and Order SVU, among many, many other credits. Again, look her up. Google her. This Pam Grier, you Google her.
You can IMDb
in
this.
2000, in 2010, she wrote her memoir called Foxy, My Life in 3 Acts with Andrea Kagan. In 2011, she received an honorary doctorate of humane letters from the University of Maryland, Eastern Shore. That same year, she also received an honorary doctorate of science from Langston University. She founded the Pam Grier Community Garden and Education Center with the National Multicultural Western Heritage Museum because she's very proud of her Midwestern and Western roots. Awesome. The purpose was to teach people about organic gardening, health, and nutrition, among other things. The museum named their first garden in her honor in 2011. Now, in 2022, the TCM podcast, The Plot Thickens, they focused on Pam's life and career in the 4th season of their podcast. That's how they do every season. They focus on either one movie or one person's career, and they focused on Pam Grier.
That's fantastic.
Now, in 2022, Miss Pam Grier was living her best life, spending most of her time at her Colorado ranch with her horses, her chickens, and doing farm work. But reportedly that same year, she actually sold the property. I'm not really sure. And I've seen a couple interviews of her since then for 2023, but no word on if that sale went through. I think the sale did go through, but I'm not sure if she bought a bigger farm but she's a country girl. So I can't imagine that she would give up being out in the country completely, but she continues to work and be respected and just be flourishing. She was engaged a couple of times, but she never married. And in that Plot Thickens, she says, I chose me. And I'm so glad I did. So she chose her, which is, again, this is homage to my grandmother who always chose herself. When it came to, not in a bad way, but like she taught me how to choose myself, my grandmother, like through her strength and through her adversity, but also through her kindness. She would give you her last, and she always looked out for people. She was very nurturing, but she was also sassy, and she was also foxy, and she was also very sexy. And so this is for you, Grandma. I love you. And that's Pam Grier, my Notorious Woman for 2023.
I love her. Listen, you are your grandma's baby, let me tell you, because you're all of those things too. Okay.
Oh, I appreciate that. But all right. right, guys. That wraps it up for our final episode of 2023 of Notorious Women Podcast. Guys, remember to follow us on all the things. Remember, copy the link and send it to your friend.
And just click the little arrow that goes up. The little arrow that goes up. And just send.
Yep.
Okay.
And send it to your friend. You can also support the show on patreon.com. That's Patreon, patreon.com/notoriouswomen. You can also give us a 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts. That would help people find us, but especially in the Apple Store. Yes. That'd help a lot.
Thank you.
And then Miriam, where else can they find us?
We're on Instagram and TikTok. It's both Notorious Women Podcast. Find us on Instagram. Listen, I have some funny things that I've put recently. They're just like funny. Come like it because it's funny. It's a good time. You can DM us on Insta, not TikTok, but you can also follow us on TikTok. So many words, so little time. You can also email us at notoriouswmpod@gmail.com. We're also on YouTube, so you can listen there as well. And that, I think that's the story, the whole story.
Yeah. Yes. Again, guys, I hope you had a wonderful Christmas. By the time you're listening to this, and we hope you have a wonderful New Year's as well. And we hope that 2024, I'm almost hesitant to say something because, again, like 2019, we were like, yeah.
It's a little trauma. But you know what? You must always hope. Hope. Don't let hope die. Okay? So 2024. Keep hope alive.
Yeah.
It's going to be a good year.
And on that note.
It's going to be a good year.
Yes.
Okay.
And on that note, we will see you guys next year. Bye-bye.
Yes, bye.